Welcome, everyone. I'm delighted to have you all join us for another installment of the fabulous Emma Explores series, this wonderful series with our guest speaker, Emma Cox of Journeys into Genealogy podcast. Takes you into the perspective of a professional genealogist as she explores her own network. Sorry, as she explores her own family history. That's funny because we were just chatting about what a wonderful industry this is where everyone comes from different backgrounds. And Emma and I share experience in computer networking, which led us
do.
there. And of course, she was just telling us about a discovery of being out and about in the real world. So maybe that's a great way to get started. Go ahead, Emma.
Well, I was just saying that last Saturday I went to the West Surrey Family History Society fair, and this is a fair that they held in the local leisure centre. And I have to say, it was a lot bigger than I was expecting. There were at least a dozen stalls there, and people had come from all over the place. So West Surrey is just south of London, though it was in a place called Woking, and people had come up from Cornwall. There was the Wiltshire Family History Society, and people had travelled an awfully long way. And there was an older lady there who was selling things or giving things away in some instances because she'd been doing her family history for a long time and decided she didn't want to continue. So I actually bought quite a lot of stuff from her and gave her some money, and I got lots of other things. So I have the 1891 and 1901 censuses on CD-ROM, and I have a CD-ROM that I can plug into my computer and read them. And I thought it's quite good because it means I can then go and look street by street if I want to, or find more information rather than trying to look on a screen. Sometimes on the internet isn't so easy. And one of the reasons for going is there's a gentleman by the name of Graham Bandy. If you haven't come across him, he does something called Living Military History. And I interviewed him on my podcast a couple of years ago about researching your military ancestors. And I've got a wonderful little miniature, which I'm not sure whether I've shown on this one before, but we'll see if we can get it going. You've certainly seen it. And I didn't know who he was. I had no idea about who he was. And I wanted Graham to try and help me identify it. So I went along, and Graham took out his magnifying glass and he had a little look at it. And he said, yes, he thought it was from the 1850s, around about 1857, 1858. And if the person was born around about 1835, he would have been about the right age. And he had a couple of pips on his shoulder, so he was a captain. And so I managed to find another photograph. So he then looked at the magnifying glass again, and he was comparing ears and noses and sort of saying, was it the same person? And then he said, yes, it was. And then there was another one on there, and he said, oh no, that's later, that's not the same person, that's someone else. And that was, I had thought it was the same person. And he said, no, it isn't, this one's the Irish Rifles instead. So I've actually been doing some digging since then to try and work out, and I think I've worked out that it was Henry's nephew, but I'm nearly convinced, but I just need to do a bit more digging there. But that's all through actually meeting someone in person and actually talking to them and sort of having some ideas that you want confirmed, and just exchanging information, really.
Wow, don't you love that for real people in person and real insights? I love doing live things where we can have connections around the globe as we do today from Calgary and London and Victoria, Australia. But yeah, actually holding someone's hand and letting them look at something directly is pretty thrilling. I feel like I'm missing out now.
You have to organize something locally, Barbara, people to meet up.
That's a thought. That's a thought. Someday
Mm.
we need a little more size, but someday. Why don't you go ahead and let's go ahead and get started with the
Okay,
presentation today.
right, just give me a moment. I will share my screen. And just start it off. So today, I've been looking at a different part of my family tree, and I've been finding about people who were interested in acting, maybe producing, and basically just standing up in front of other people and talking, or different things. So today it's about actors and more in my family tree. So for anybody who doesn't know who I am, I'm Emma Cox, family historian and a genealogist and a Huguenot descendant via my father's mother. I help people find out about their ancestors, put together family trees and charts, investigate DNA and find living relatives, edit and write books, and take people on tours of the places their ancestors lived and worked. So as Barbara mentioned earlier, I've got my podcast, Journeys into Genealogy, and I think we've got 97 episodes on there, and I'm working on the latest one, which will be coming out in the next few days. And I interview experts and people with interesting family stories, and this next one is going to be a family story one. So some of my ancestors who were actors or involved in the theatre, films and television. And I love this old picture. I'm fortunate I have a subscription to a photo library online, and some of the information that comes out of there, some of the pictures are amazing. And I think this is actually possibly somewhere in Europe, but you can see the people in the boxes watching the stage and what's going on there, and the candles. Those actually look like they're people with candles on their heads there, which doesn't sound safe, but that's how it used to be done. So the first person we're going to be talking about today, his name is Albert John Evans. And I didn't know a great deal about him. He's also known as A.J. Evelyn. That's actually his stage name. And I thought it's interesting that he used the same initials for his stage name as for his actual real life name. He was born in 1867 and he lived till 1955. And he married my great aunt Constance Edwards. And they apparently had quite a smart wedding. So I just thought I'd share that with you. So a marriage of some theatrical interest took place on Saturday at Christchurch in Mayfair between Mr. A.J. Evelyn and Miss Constance Bennis Edwards, daughter of Mrs. Bennis Edwards, who became known to the dramatic world last autumn by producing Hayden Perry's successful opera called Cigarette at the Lyric and Shaftesbury Theatre, in which opera the bridegroom, Mr. Evelyn, supported one of the leading comic characters. And basically it goes on there. And actually there are some other people who will be appearing a bit later on in this talk mentioned in there who are other relatives. So the Fonblons down there, if anyone's listened to any of my other talks, they'll know that Fonblon is one of my family names here. So the bride was presented by her mother with a somewhat unusual present of a house and furniture complete. They came from quite a wealthy family. So it's like they obviously had quite a good start with their marriage. And this is details of the actual play, Cigarette, that was produced by Constance and that AJ actually appeared in. And you can see he played the part of Benzaline. I have no idea what Benzaline did because I can find the details of it, but I don't really know what the thing was about itself. But the music was by Hayden Parry as well. And he was quite a well-known composer. I found this one on the Hathieu Trust. That's a really good website for finding old information. He also appeared in something called Dandy Dick Whittington. And he was Achilles Fitzwarren in this one. And you can see his name is on there along with quite a few other cast members. And the Times declared it was not an opera bouffe, but a variety entertainment, a series of disconnected situations, a superabundance of topical songs, dances, acrobatic feats with occasional concerted pieces make up the whole entertainment. It must have been quite something to actually watch that. And this is another one that he appeared in called The Duchess of Dancing. Now, this one came off the Hathieu Trust as well. And I thought it was beautiful the way that this actually appeared. And I love the border on this one. It's really pretty. And again, he's mentioned in here. I just need to find him again on the screen. So where are we? He is Sergeant Flageolet. And Flageolet in French is a bean. So Sergeant Bean. And Hathieu Trust was that one as well. And this is actually a picture of him in action. So you can see he's Rago, the one on the left, father to Pervenche and uncle to Ulurine. And I bought this, I saw it, and I couldn't resist it. And so I've actually got a copy of this one at home of him doing that. And I think the outfit that he's wearing is amazing. Look at his stockings. They're not just bobbly, as in lots of dots on them, but they look like they've actually got embroidery on them. And the beautiful silk pantaloons, it looks like he's got a little medal that he's wearing around his waist. And they've both got wigs on. And they're obviously very intently playing their game of chess there. And you see he's actually got a looking glass, a lorgnette, which is down between his legs that he could use if he wanted to. And I think that's just an amazing picture to see somebody in action playing chess. Moving on, we have another person here. So he's Robert Edgar de Fonblon. Now, he was my great-grandfather's half-brother. He was about 19 years older than my great-grandfather, so I think they were fairly close because I've got pictures of him. This is one of ones I own, and various other things that came as part of my great-grandfather's metal chest that I have sitting in my sitting room. So again, he was an actor, and the first record that I managed to find out about this was on the census in Scotland. So he apparently was in Glasgow, and he was staying with a family called Lauder, and he was 22. And I don't know what he was acting in. I haven't managed to find out any more information for the moment, but that is the first proof that I have of him being there. And I've also got I have some unknown DNA matches who have this surname in their family tree, and I'm not sure whether there is a connection there somewhere. And again, from my great-grandfather's press cuttings books, this is a play that Robert acted in. So it's a Tudor fair at a place called Bradenham in 1926. So he played the part of Lord Burleigh, so he's shown there. And on the right-hand side, you can see the photographs. So there's an opening ceremony and then the Queen and her court. And I imagine that he is somewhere in the bottom photograph, one of the men standing at the back. And unfortunately, it's not good enough quality to be able to identify which one's him. But I think it's lovely that this is actually there. And you can see, obviously, a lot of people came to see it. You can see there are hundreds of people standing in front of the stage there. So it must have been very popular. And it was organised by the Women's Institute. So not quite sure why they did it, but it was some sort of celebration to do with the Women's Institute there, a Tudor fair at Bradenham. Now we come on to Robert Edgar's wife, Florence de Fontblanc. She's born in 1865 and died in 1949. And her father was a Swiss confectioner. Her name was Sparagnapane. I have to pronounce that quite carefully. It's not easy to say. And her stage name was Miss Florence Kingsley. So I think that they thought that that was probably easier to pronounce and remember than Sparagnapane. So this is the first one I found for her, and she was about 17 when this one came out. So she obviously started doing things quite young. And she was appearing at the Theatre Royal in Croydon, which is just south of London, on Monday, February the 20th in 1882. And Mr. W. Richardson's special performance. And then I also found her at the Terry's Theatre, which is under the management of Mr. Sidney Allport. And it first mentions a lucky dog, and then it goes on to something to say at 8, something called Queer Street. So we've got Mr. Fred Thorne, Mr. Frank Curzon, and Miss Florence Kingsley, etc., on a matinee on Wednesdays at 2:30. So she obviously had quite a long career in the theatre as an actress. She was also a suffragette. And her mother, Amelia Sparagnapane, when she died in 1901, it said on her probate that she lived in Hollywood. Not Hollywood in California, but Hollywood in Bognor in East Sussex. So they obviously must have been sort of quite a strong theatre acting thing in the family then, that she felt that she wanted to name her house Hollywood. Now, Maud Arncliffe Sennett is actually her sister. So this is a lovely picture of her from Wikipedia, and I think she's a beautiful woman, and I love the brooch that she's wearing around her neck and the ruffles and things, and I think it's just an amazing picture there. And she was involved in the Women's Freedom League. She was a suffragette as well as being an actress. Her stage name was Mary Kingsley, so we've got Florence Kingsley and Mary Kingsley, the two sisters who are both actresses. And there was something called the Actresses Franchise League. So this is basically where actresses were involved in trying to get the votes for women in England. So Maud was very, very active in that one. She actually merits her own Wikipedia page. I can show you that one if we just head off to that one, just one moment. And you can see there are some other photographs of her here. There's another nice one there, and she's a member of the National Executive Committee of the Women's Freedom League. And unfortunately, that's the force feeding of suffragettes, so some of the things that they actually had to undergo in order to get the votes for women. And their father, by some strange, I don't know why, apparently he was one of the first people to invent Christmas crackers. And they called them Cossacks. The crackers was a later name for it, and someone else actually gets the credit for being the first person to do this, but he was around the same time, and I don't know, there is some confusion online as to who was actually first. He was certainly one of the first, if not the first, and this is an example of the kind of advert that went out to talk about it. So they're famous for the beauty, variety, and originality of their designs. They do Cossacks, wedding cake ornaments, bouquets, wreaths, and magic flowers. Don't know what magic flowers are, but this is a very successful business because their father died and then their mother carried it on for quite some time. And then I think that then one of her sons-in-law also carried it on for a period of time. So that's from 1880, and that's from the British Newspaper Archive, that one, in a magazine called Brief. Doing this, I was actually introduced to quite a few new magazines that I wasn't aware of. And I think that some of them might have had either a short lifetime or a very specific audience. And then I just thought I'd pop something in there about Christmas crackers themselves, and it mentions him. It was first brought into England in the year 1840 by a Swiss Italian of the name of Spragnapane. This romantic gentleman had formerly been the confectioner to the courts of Russia and Poland, where he had seen Cossack officers give presents to their ladies containing mottos and love verses wrapped in bright coloured paper. His first Christmas crackers, which he appropriately called Cossacks, quickly caught on and have now become almost symbolic of the season. The extent of the trade may be gauged, says the Manchester Guardian, from the fact that in one London factory, 1,000 girls have been engaged during the past 12 months in making crackers for this Christmas. It's amazing what you find out, these sort of random facts that sort of help expand the knowledge that you have on a part of your family, because I had no idea there was anything to do with Christmas crackers. So we've moved on to Henry Robert Arncliffe Sinnott. So he's actually the husband of Maud. So he's Robert and Florence's brother-in-law. And he was also an actor. And I think this is a rather lovely picture of him. I don't know what part he was playing, but this dates from 1896. And I would say he's a king or somebody who's in the court, probably Tudor times or something around then. And again, that was on eBay. So eBay can be a really interesting place to find information out about your family. I've mentioned it before and I'll mention it again. It's worthwhile doing things and having an eBay search set up so that it will actually tell you if there's anything interesting and send you an email about it. Now, Robert and Maud didn't really like their names for some reason. I have no idea why, but they basically changed them. So they actually put a name, the notice appeared in the Gazette in 1922, and he was Henry Robert Sinnott and Alice Maud Mary Sinnott, and they changed their names to be Robert and Alice Mary Sinnott. No idea why they did that, but it's just a little bit of information there. Now we're moving into slightly more modern times, the 20th century. Another one on the family tree, his name was Hercules Belville. Well, in itself, that's quite an interesting name. He was born Rupert Hercules Fuqua Belville. That is a bit of a mouthful, really, so he shortened it a bit. He is my fourth cousin, and he was a film director. And his father was actually a friend of Ernest Hemingway, and he spent the summer of 1956 traveling through Spain with Ernest Hemingway. And he was also an assistant to Roman Polanski. And this is what he looks like. Sorry, the quality is not brilliant. I took that from a smaller one, so it's on there. And he's buried in Highgate Cemetery in London. Then we've got Adrian Ropes. So now he's a television and theatre actor. He's my third cousin once removed. And both of these actually merit their own Wikipedia page. So I'll just show you what Adrian did. And on this, it tells me the different plays he was a part of. So he was in The Avengers, Randall and Hopkirk, and various other things there. And this are some of the pictures I actually managed to find of him. So I thought it was rather fun showing him in a couple of different roles that he played within the Avengers. And I might have actually seen him on the Avengers because I've watched this is the first series, and there were three people. If anybody isn't familiar with this, there were three people who solved crimes, and there was two men and a woman, and it was very glamorous and very 1960s, and nice cars and John Steed and different people like that. And so to think he took part in that, it's quite fun to think about that one. He also appeared in the theatre. So this is a play called Salad Days. So you can see he's in here and he plays the part of PC Boot. So he was keeping people in order. So that was in October 1962 and it appeared for 2 weeks. So again, that one is from eBay. Then we have another wonderful name here. We have Ian Colin Marmaduke de Collier Wetherell. You couldn't make these names up, really. It's just coming along there and it's like, really? And it's like, you think, I sometimes don't know what people are thinking of when they name their children. It's not easy. So he actually didn't act as that name. Funnily enough, he acted as Ian Colin, just to make things a little bit simpler. And he was in something called Wings Over Africa, and also quite a famous film called The Quatermass Experiment. So some older people might remember that one. And he was the husband of my fourth cousin once removed. And he appears over here. And he was in The Invisible Man and various other things. I think he was quite a scary looking television actor, character actor, I think might be described as actually. And it also appears on the Peerage, which is quite an interesting website. You can actually see some interesting family tree. The person who has run this, he has done a lot of research. So if you manage to find someone on here, it's fairly likely to be right. And you can actually then go from person to person. So you can see he was the son of Marmaduke. You can go back there and you can see different people within here. So the Peerage is another good website to use. And there's his photograph again from Wikipedia. What a name. So when I was doing all of this, I thought I'd actually compile some information and tell you what I found useful. Obviously, I've used Wikipedia. Do be careful if you use it. It's not always accurate, but it's a good starting point and look at it. And you can actually, if you want to, create Wikipedia pages yourself. So if you have ancestors, you can't create it about yourself, but you can create about other people. You can put pages together. If you have particularly interesting ancestors and they already have a page, maybe consider about creating one and putting some of the information you've got on there for them. And then other people can share in it. The British Newspaper Archive, again, that's an amazing resource. It's a site that you have to pay for, but it's well worth doing because the newspapers are being added to all the time. And I think the subscription is about £70 a year or something like that. It's not terribly expensive. And you can save things. You can put folders together and you can bookmark the articles you want and you can download the articles. So I use the British Newspaper Archive a lot. eBay, again, as you never know what you might discover, and that picture of the two men playing chess, it's like that came up. I'm always looking on eBay for different things. I have various alerts that come up and tell me, and there are other times where I'll just go and have a look myself. The Hathi Trust. If you're not familiar with the Hathi Trust, just go and have a quick look at the website, pardon me. It's a brilliant website. You can search for all sorts of different things on here. So you can search during keywords. So if I search for, let's just look in Fonblanc here, BLANQUE. Oops, put an N in there as well. Okay, not in a featured collection. Let's just search up the top there. Sorry, I was searching in the wrong field. Let's do that again. So it's going to go away and find things. So there's one of our girls, a comedy in 4 acts. There's various different things on here. I started looking through some of them. Mrs. Harding Cox is another one of my ancestors. He was one of my great grandfather's cousins, I think, if I remember rightly. And there are various different people within here. So the Hathi Trust, it's all free. You can choose to download an individual page from there. And it's just an amazing resource. Google searches, you can't beat a good old Google search, and you can save your Google alerts as well. So you can actually be notified of anything that comes up. the alerts. Now, there's something I was going to mention here is I interviewed a lady called Michelle Holman a couple of years ago on Journeys into Genealogy, and she put together a blog post. So I put the link into this one, and she included lots and lots of different resources, and I'll just show you what it's like. Wait for it to come up a moment. So this was her tips on how to get started if you actually want to look for your theatre ancestors. So she says about do the usual searches, put together a timeline, and then start looking for details and look for stage names. So Albert John Evans, aka AJ Evelyn, Florence de Fonblanc or Florence Sparagnapain, aka Florence Kingsley. So it's worthwhile looking for any different variations of the names that you know of on there. She's also got resources which cover an earlier period. So for the 18th century, a lot of her ancestors were in that. So there's Abraham Adcock. And then she talks about different things as a London stage database, which covers 1616 to 1800. And then there's a biography that covers the same period there. There are also theatre calendars. So this is where they would actually have what was showing at a particular time there, and they're searchable. And some of the theatres outside London also have their own resources. And if you were into people who were involved in music, there are different things. And there you are, Mr. Fonblanc. That's someone else. That's not the same person, I don't think, because I have a few other people who are in there, and some general tips in there. So it's worthwhile having a look at that and seeing if there's any other tips that will be useful to you within that. So that's the end of my presentation. Any questions?
Wow, I have questions.
Okay.
So many questions. You talked about the Tudor Fair.
Yes.
Is that where everybody shows up in period costume and does fair-like things? Is that the idea, as far as you know?
I think that actual Tudor Fair was somebody putting on a play more than I, because I
Oh,
don't think that people would have had Tudor costumes or would it been dressing up so much to go on actually attending it. I think it
I
was
see.
that they were there to be entertained by people, and there might have been different entertainments that were Tudor themed, if you know what I mean, but not
Yeah,
the people who are actually visiting.
I see. Okay, because Ren Fair is not only such a popular summer fair thing here in the Bay Area, but there's just a coterie of people who love to dress up and, cosplay. And so, yeah, they also do an Edwardian, or Victorian Christmas, the Dickens Fair.
Mm.
And again, everybody pulls out the variations of their little costumes and shows up in the wintertime.
Mm. We went to one locally called Into the Trees last summer, and that was where people dressed up and sort of they had things like people doing wood turning, they had knights on horseback, they had all sorts of different things. So that was fun just to see, and quite a few of the people attending did dress up. And Hever Castle's quite close to me, and you get people who do tournaments there and things, so people taking things quite
Jousting.
seriously. Yes, jousting and things.
I don't know. There's something so funny about that from way over here to see that we're not just cosplaying the English, but the English cosplay the English.
Oh yeah.
Emily has a question.
What was that? Was it something about eBay?
Mhm.
Okay, let's see.
I
Just
had the
take.
same question.
Yeah, so searching on eBay. Okay, let's just. I will share my screen again. Just a moment. Uh, just go to eBay. So if I search, I'll put in Fonblanc again. I'll put it, spell it correctly. So this basically brings up things here. So you can see I've got I'd love this. It's a bit expensive. This is an original copy of a book written by one of my ancestors. There are lots of different books on
Wow.
here. You can see Victorian
Oh,
vocalist,
yeah.
Mr. Fonblanc, someone's obituary, and then there are lots of reprints of books that they did that I'm not interested in, but I just get there different things on there. And I spoke about this one last time. Do you remember the expensive autograph that I mentioned
Yeah.
previously?
Yeah.
So you can see there's lots of different things on there about different books, whatever they've got
So,
available.
So
And
they
then,
really are putting the names of the, any reference to the name is included in the search material.
yeah, and then you can just save what you want. So it's just sitting there, and it's done something that's sort of a similar search, because I think it's a name that's not off that can be spelt incorrectly. So you can just search what you want to. So I could search for, let's just see if there's anything for Edward William Cox. If you put it in inverted commas like that, it'll search for that phrase. So this is another one of mine. So it comes up with picture of him, an antique print that I could buy if I want to for £5.99. And then there's various other things. I know he wrote books. There's various reprints of his books on there. Nothing particularly interesting other than that. So literally, if you want it, and then you just save it, and then it will email you when something comes up that matches that, and you can choose to do what you want with it.
Very cool. So that's a lot like a Google search
Yeah,
alert, but
yeah,
for eBay. And
yeah.
I didn't realize they would put that much information that presumably is not written on the piece or something like that to add it into the search.
I think people put things in the description, and they
Yeah.
might put tags on there as well. Excuse
Yeah.
me. But it's worthwhile looking on eBay, because things come up all the time. So you can save a search if you want to, and it will actually send you an email, or just have a look every now and then and see whether there's something on there that's of interest. So if I
Very
have a look for Maud Sennett, okay, what was his name? Was it Robert? I think it was Robert Sennett. Mm,
I
as
think
a
it would,
Hollywood director, yeah, there's different
I th
people on there.
yeah. It
Mm.
would be probably especially good for anybody, any ancestor who was a writer of any kind, or as you say, is an actor
Yeah.
of any kind, anything
Um,
that had publicity.
and also for things if they've appeared in anything. So magazines and things, the magazine covers sometimes are sold on there. Um, you might get old theatre programs occasionally if you're really lucky. That's the sort of thing where it's worthwhile looking in. I know that a place locally called Heathfield has a market each week. And I know one of the stall holders there, and I've bought quite a lot of books from him. But I also know that there are lots and lots of theatre programs in there. There are boxes of theatre programs. So if that was of a particular interest, you could spend hours looking through that. And I'm sure there are other flea markets, secondhand shops, all sorts of things, online sellers, people who specialize
Mm.
in things like that. And it's worthwhile looking for in
Yeah.
different countries. Even places like Trove, you can
Uh-huh.
do searches on there. There might be things appearing in
Yeah.
Australia.
Do you find that I mean, I imagine the SEO, I know in my own searches of Google that eBay things turn up, but searching from directly within the platform is better than expecting them to show in SEO-based searches of the public web.
And it's worthwhile searching everywhere
Yeah.
just to see what comes up. I do that, and I'll redo searches every now and then. I might turn them off if I don't want to do them for a while, if I think I've got enough. But
Hmm.
I just keep them, and I basically file them all. I have a folder called genealogy, and I just
Hmm.
file all the things in there, because one of my ancestors was a publisher.
Hmm.
And I've got a thing for him called Horace Cox was his name. And so basically I'm trying to work out what books he published, and every now and then one will pop up that I haven't heard of before. So I just try and note down that, and then I want to actually edit his Wikipedia page and add all of these things to it, because he's got a virtually a stub at the moment with no information on it. So
Hmm.
that's something to consider doing.
Hmm. Yeah, I have a newspaper publisher, great-grandfather, so it's pretty recent. And yeah, it's because it was a newspaper, it's pretty widely archived into the our Library of Congress. Um, and yeah,
Another thing
yeah.
to consider is if you want to actually see a book, the British Library is supposed to have a copy of every book ever published in this country.
That's the same thing here for our
Mm,
Library of Congress.
mm,
But of course, as we move forward in time and now have more self-publishing and things like that, things won't appear there.
yeah.
Um, but it certainly gets very interesting, especially things escaping the the locked newspaper.com and things like that, which I always like to remind people you can often get, at least in in America, you can often get to these libraries, to these archives through your public library. You
And the
log
same
into
here.
them. Yeah.
You can get Ancestry there, and you can get things like the dictionary, Oxford Dictionary of National Biography, and different things like that. So it's worthwhile always having a look and seeing what's available at your local library, and asking within the library, because they sometimes have suggestions for other things that you might not have considered.
Mm-hmm. Is there a spendthrift's guide to genealogy? I mean, I know the bargain hunters or genealogy bargains or whatever it is out there, but that's mostly about special offers and deals. I meant more like where are things that are free that you may not have expected to be free.
No, I don't think there is anything quite like that.
Probably because there's no economic incentive.
Mm. Mm. I mean, with all of these things, you can sometimes sign up for free trials for things, or you can sign up
Yeah,
for a month at a time. You don't have
yeah.
to
Or
take out a long subscription to anything.
frequently they're available through something else, like the National Society in the US, the National Society of Genealogists has a deal with the also ran newspaper site. I forget, it's the same people that run storied.com. And so you can look at small local newspapers, and then individual big newspapers like the New York Times has their own archives that you can search for directly. But I don't know if they're all available also from the
And sometimes
Library
you
of
also get
Congress.
things where you get an offer for a particular time of the year. So
Yes.
for we have Remembrance Sunday, which is normally the 11th of November. So that weekend, you will quite often find that there are military records that are available for free. For example, the British Newspaper Archive. It could be something on My Heritage or something or other. There are quite a lot of freebies around certain events.
So I'd say for my spendthrift podcasters or posters on Substack, there's an opportunity.
I think
Post what
Jennifer
you know
wanted to
and
say
solicit
something.
more. Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead,
I think
Jennifer. Oh, you're muted. Oh.
I always forget that. About the freebies, Find My Past often will throw up a free weekend occasionally, just for no theme, or just every now and then they will advertise. I think a couple of times a year maybe.
Yeah.
And just frantically usually sit there for the weekend, search and take
Yeah.
down as much information as I can, and you can follow it up later.
Yeah.
they
I'm
did that
thinking,
recently, actually, for Remembrance Sunday, and they included the
Yes,
1921 census. So
yes,
that's normally chargeable at £3.50 per image, but that was available
yeah,
for free a couple of
yeah,
weekends ago.
that was good. And our local library now has you can access Find My Past from home for free.
yeah.
Just since COVID, that came in during COVID,
Yeah.
and it's continued on. Yeah.
I'm thinking of a little database that anybody can plug things they've heard about into, and then
Yeah,
anybody else could come and look at. Oh,
yeah,
just putting out there. Maybe it's
yeah.
a mission genealogy idea. I'll speak to my partner in crime. Well, because very often, especially here on Substack, where you have the ability to support other writers doing work who have inspired you, who've done whatever. And Project Kin, by the way, has been very grateful for the many contributions of coffee and so on. Oh, hello. You found something on eBay, Emily, I'm guessing.
Signed letter from Calendar Irvine, Commissary General of Purchases. Wow.
Very cool. There you go. And in fact, in that context, eBay is like a free search, isn't it?
eBay and Google searches are brilliant. I mean, it's worthwhile even thinking about other things, Bing and other search engines, and just see if they get different results. And there was a lot
They
in the
will.
newspaper today, or in the news recently, saying that Google might be forced to actually sell off Chrome. So it's like, who knows what's happening in terms of searching and different things. And I don't know at the moment.
Especially
So
with AI. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's the key part of it is now that Gemini is woven into Chrome, forcing them to sell Chrome. Chrome is not really about a browser. It's about your identity and your identity when you've logged in, and therefore a profile about you that they turn around and sell to advertisers who put ads in front of you when you don't know it.
Another thing actually that might be worth mentioning is that you can do anonymous browsing.
Yes.
So which will ignore all your previous search histories, where you're based, anything you've done previously. You can choose to do an anonymous session, and that might be worth doing to see if you get any different results coming up.
And that's absolutely right. Absolutely true in every browser. It's usually Command Shift or Alt Shift N or P, I think, in Safari, and hugely, hugely useful. I use it several times a day. Another thing to realize about incognito or private mode is if you're logged in one way, you can open up another tab on the same browser as long as it's in incognito mode. And, you know, for example, look at what your post looks like if you're not logged in. In Substack, or to come in as a different login, or whatever else you want to do. Very, very useful. Stupid pet tricks for the internet. I actually did a post about that. Don't know if it's on Project Ken. Things like command click when, or alt click when you want to have something open in a separate tab, which I do all the time. Well, this is tremendously helpful. I think everybody gets quiet and starts looking, because we're all often inspired and looking things up and where this is taking. Do you want to share a little bit, Emma, about some of the things that you have coming in Journeys into Genealogy, or perhaps thoughts that you have for future topics and themes as you cover here in Emma Explores and out into next year?
Okay, so if we start with the podcast, as I said, I'm coming up to my 100th episode. So I've got an episode about Bermondsey I'm going to be recording. So Bermondsey is a place that's in Surrey. It's on the south coast of the River Thames. And it was a very popular place for food. So lots of food factories and things like that. And it's got quite a long past. So I've got somebody who's an expert that's going to come and talk about that one. I've got the Lost 57 is what I'm working on at the moment. So that should be published within the next week. I have going to be interviewing somebody about Roots Tech. So Roots Tech next year. I have Ariel, who's from Family Search. He's going to be talking with me in December, and then I'm probably publishing that in January. I have got so many different ideas. Forgive me, I will just bring up my list there, and I can just have a little look about it. What else have we
While
got
you're
going?
doing that, you can tell us what the Lost 57 is. It sounds like a Heinz ketchup program.
This is actually a story about somebody's grandfather. So, and basically it's about not knowing very much about too much to a certain age, and how he found out about it and what he found out.
Oh,
And this is
fabulous.
a guy from Canada. So yes, look out for that one, the Lost 57. I've also got, what else? Let's have a look here. The prize papers. So that's going to be talking about ships, and it's a project that's going on at the National Archives at Kew. A lady called Anne Raymond, and so I'm going to be talking with her, and she's going to be talking about the kind of records that you can find on there. So basically, when a ship was captured by an English ship, or captured another ship, they basically took all the papers off. Pardon me, and that can give you some family history clues. It tells you who the crew were, it tells you what was on board. They captured the post, so the mail. So sometimes they had all the mail that was supposed to go between one country and another, all sorts of different things. So she's going to be talking about that. So those are coming up in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be doing something to celebrate my 4th anniversary 100th episode, and talking about what's going to be coming up in 2025. Some of the different topics that I'm going to be covering in 2025 include more on researching female ancestors, because I've had several people asking about that. Recommended tools, so people are always interested in tools that can help them. Family Tree Maker, we're going to get somebody coming on about Family Tree Maker. Things about local archives and other family history societies. AI, I want to do something about AI. I'm thinking also about the livery companies. So I don't know if you're aware of the livery companies. So that's to do with apprenticeships and things like that in this country. Publishing your own family stories. What else have I got? Various different ones there. I was going to do something where there are family associations that people set up where people are researching a particular surname. So I thought that it would be quite interesting to talk to somebody who's actually been doing that and just how they've actually got on and what they've done and their tips and things for there.
That's like with the Guild for One Name
Yes,
Studies.
Goons, the Guild for One Name Studies, but actually talking to somebody about their individual one and what they've done and different things there. I do want to actually talk to somebody about the Hattie Trust. I'm going to work about doing that one. Thinking about Nathan Dillon Goodwin. I don't know if any of you come across him. Yeah, he's quite a well-known genealogy author. If you haven't come across him, look up his books. They're really interesting. He's got two different series. One is set quite close to where I live in Sussex. And basically there's a guy who's a genealogist there and he solves mysteries and it's sometimes involving his family and other people. And then there's another one which is to do with genetic genealogy and that's set in America. So it's all worth looking at him. I also was thinking about interviewing someone about Trove at some point. I'm not sure that I'm going to manage to do all of these next year. These are the ideas about different things. So if there's anything that people are particularly interested, sports is another one about trying to research your sporting ancestors. The Londonist is somebody I want to contact. He's on Substack and he produces some amazing maps. He recolors old maps and I love maps. Heraldry. Researching Canadian ancestors. I definitely want to do that one because I haven't managed to sort that one out. Somebody who's going to do about carte de visite, English photographers, the little postcard type images that people had. So I've got a guy who's in his 80s, but he's agreed to be interviewed. So I need to contact him in the new year and actually do that. People who've written books. The Orders and Medals Research Society. They were somebody else who was there at the weekend. So there you are, you have a sneak preview as to lots and lots of different topics that are going to be coming up there. And you asked me something else and I've forgotten. What was it?
Oh, I don't know. It's really the looking forward. This time of year, I think you probably like me have to plan our schedules, our events, our programs months in advance. So somewhere
I've
around
remembered.
somewhere around October, I started thinking about January. And we've just laid in our plans for January. And if I may do a little hat tip to Jennifer here on our call today, will be one of our speakers on January 9th, the details of which will be falling into place shortly to be posted. But the thing of it is there is recognizing that many of us here publishing articles, recordings, and whatnot on Substack maintain other platforms that we also work in or that we chose to come here from somewhere else. Why and how, I think, is instructive to anyone. I did a piece on Substack, plus we are in an entirely private configuration. And I didn't even realize what I was doing in doing that. And there are many interesting uses for it the other way around as well. So our first of this series, I think it'll be a couple of different programs around this, will be Jennifer along with Jane Chapman. So stay tuned for that one for our Pacific edition, highlighting our special contributors now from Australia, New Zealand, and of course Canada, my friends here on the Pacific side, right, Linda? As we take these forward.
And you
So
were
with
asking about Emma Explores. So I just thought
yeah.
I've remembered a couple of things. So there are two people I actually want to talk about. One of whom is my great uncle, Charles Percy Cox, and he basically built a boat in Canada and sailed it down to the Caribbean. And I've got his scrapbooks and all sorts of different things in there. So I want to put together a presentation on him. I need to do a little bit more digging on him, and I've got lots of stuff, and so that's one of the things I'm going to be doing. Another one is Edward William Cox, who is one of my publisher ancestors. So I want to do something on him and Horace, so the publishing side of things, because they did things like Crockford's Clerical Review, the Law Times, Exchange and Mark, Field Magazine, Queen Magazine, was all the sort of things that he published. And in some of my boxes, actually in Charles Percy Cooke's things, I've got 50th anniversary or 100th anniversary issues of some of these magazines and things. So I dig out some of those and look through them and then be able to share some of the information I found there.
Fabulous. In fact, I'm thinking about different ways to contextualize scrapbooks. This is something that we talked about as even Ponga, and there's some new features in We Are that lets you create essentially hotspots on a picture and bring in more content to contextualize it. And I've been thinking about that for one of my ancestors' scrapbooks. It's kind of remarkably uninteresting. It's nothing but newspaper clippings without attribution. But these days, it's not that hard to figure out the attribution if you just have the text of the post and the likely time windows and place to figure that out. But contextualizing artifacts. So if you'd be interested in turning that into a project, execute it any way you want, of course. That's sort of our platform independence commitment. That's a lot of what I like to see is the creative ways in which different people bring ideas to the table, because we all have the same fundamental challenges, right?
We do.
So why don't we take that as a natural... Oh, did you have a question, Linda? Go ahead.
Well, at the beginning, Emma mentioned about that fair she was at, and you said it was in Woking?
Yes.
Yeah. How far is that from Kent then?
From where I live, it's about an hour, just over an hour's drive. So it depends whereabouts in Kent, because Kent's big.
I don't know, but I've heard of that name quite a bit when Grandma, when my grandma was still alive. So it must have been maybe close to where she lived. I don't know. I don't know that, but yeah, when you said that, I said, oh, that rings a bell. Yeah.
Have a look on the old censuses and see what you can find to see if they've got any relations that lived there, if there were cousins or sisters or something like that. It's worthwhile checking.
Well, you said about all these cousins or whatever from her side. There was a Gur family here in Calgary, but they weren't related to her. Yeah. So I don't know. As far as I know, there's been nobody else came to Canada, like any Bradleys or Gurs. And the other thing was, what was I going? When I was searching the Bradleys, it ended after only a few because a Bradley, a lady from I think it was Dowdy family, it was called Dowdy, the last name. And it was a lady that married a Bradley. And that was about three back. So my Bradley line kind of went. I don't know where it went. I mean, how far back it went, I don't know then, right? Yeah, I kind of
more opportunities to research, aren't there?
Yeah, I kind of got lost on that. Yeah. But when you do the 16, I've been trying to figure this out. I looked at what Jennifer had put and what Barbara has put, but you have to do both sides of your family, right? Your mom and your dad.
That's how you
can
get to
do
16.
what you want. But I did my 16 and then I suggested, why don't people do their 8s? Because that's easier, because it's fewer people and you're more likely to have it because that's your great grandparents. So start with your 8s and do them on one side. And you could even start with saying my 4 maternal great grandparents, my 4 paternal great grandparents, and split it like that, and then build backwards from that one.
Okay, well, that's kind of what I did, because I said, well, I have more than the Bradley side. I have the Williams side. So that's what I was kind of trying to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Stepping stones.
Yeah. Stepping stones is right.
I have found that kind of a table so helpful to be able to go back and say, well, now, how far back is that? Is that my 3rd great grandfather, my 2nd great? 1, 2.
Well, I counted yours, Barbara, because you have yours like that semicircle. And I counted yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. To
That's
see,
how it works.
because one side you had was from overseas and the other was from
Right.
the States, right?
Right, right. I have
Yeah.
one
other
side
thing
of my
I
family.
have, I don't know if anyone can see that, is the cousin relationship chart.
Right,
Have you got
right.
one of those? A 10-generation relationship chart. So
I've
it
seen
tells
those.
you how you're related to somebody. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, it's disappeared. Sorry. It tells you how you're related to somebody. Oops, just about
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
From different things. So that can be quite helpful when you're looking for people.
Yeah, yeah. I I have shamelessly used, it happens that in my family I have a lot of the names were there before me already done in Family Search, which has that nifty relationship tab so that you can say, you know, if I get back to 6 and 7, I'm easily lost as to what the relationship is. Or I turn somebody up with the same name that's really close and is in the same area. I just jump straight to the relationship tab and says, the wife of the third great uncle, you know, that kind of thing or whatever. As a way to see that. And then yeah, but building that table and understanding how that table works, I did you know, a drawing with lines and connections to show my nephews and nieces, you know, how they were related through my mother's side, their grandmother, and on up, so that when we talk about family, they know how that they really are related. And we have a lot of extended families, so unexpected. I've done the same thing on the Tien side, the Chinese side of the family, and they're all very mystified as to how that all works. But and there you're counting, historically, they count generations. So, oh, yeah, he's generation 19. And you have to just sort of know what that means. But we build a tree that shows it's in columns. So it shows the generation numbers. It's a lot easier to pick it up, even if they are a 30-year age difference between all the same people in the same generation 22.
That's one of the things you have to be really wary of when you're looking for your ancestors, is that some generations can be really wide.
Yeah.
And you can get 25 years in the same generation between a family of siblings.
Easily. Yeah. Yeah. Especially with multiple marriages or, you know, dying early and having a lot of children and dying early and then remarrying young, you know. Well, the curiosities and complexities of families is what we're here for, right? Thank you all so very much for joining again today as Emma explores and has a handout with us as she brings us down the rabbit holes. It has always been great fun, and I love the way you are always showing us how you got there because it lets us come along in these very elegant, exciting English backgrounds and say, well, wait, I probably have some too. Let me go look. Which is always great fun. Thank you so much, and thank all of you for joining us today. It is lovely to see returning guests participating, as well as all the comments and sharing that you're so very generous with online as we post these things to Substack. As always, welcome and appreciate your thoughts and feedback and questions and ideas, because that's what keeps this all going, right? So with that, we'll go ahead and end it for today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.